unless I'm very mistaken, there's going to be a jump in price. 6 seconds, 4,500. That's not what I thought was going to happen. 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second, and 8 seconds left to go. I don't think there's going to be a fight over this book. I think somebody is going to take it away for $230,000. Hi, and welcome to Grails to Astonish. It's auction night, the first night of the ComicLink Summer Featured Auction. This is a huge, big ticket auction, and we're going to watch these books close. Okay, we got a minute to go. I was going to spend some time talking about this book, but I just got derailed by that crazy sale of Avengers 93. This is Batman number 1. This is Batman number 1. It's a 0.5 grade with brittle pages, but it's blue label. It's not restored. Of course, you can look and see it is missing its cover. This is Batman number 1, first appearance of the Joker and Catwoman with no cover. Very hard to come up with a fair market value on this. We got a sale of $27,600, I believe, for this copy, if I'm not mistaken, 2 years ago. This one is at $10,261. So fair market's $58,000 for a 0.5, but this is not any 0.5 copy. This is coverless. Is it going to get to $58,000? Is it even going to get to $27,600? Currently at $10,261. No one's bid on this in days. I'm going to hit update now and see what it is. It's $12,000 with 10 seconds to go. Somebody's going to get, the brittle pages mean this may just turn to dust in 50 years or 100 years. This paper, the lignins have broken down. It is probably going to deteriorate even in this case. So you don't know what you're getting when you buy this. That's why it's at such a steep discount. Copies of Batman number 1 do not sell for under $50,000 no matter what condition they're in. But this one is selling for $17,111. Still way below any sale price. That's not true. We do have sale prices on Batman 1 that are in similarly decayed condition for less than that. The fair market is $58,000, but some of these copies, going back a few years, there are 24 copies of Batman 1 in 0.5 condition, 300 overall. So it's not that scarce of a book. Here we have a copy selling 11 years ago for $9,700, $13,700. Yeah, this one sold. This one did sell 2 years ago for $27,600 on Heritage, and they're flipping it for $17,111. They lost $10,000 on this book. My guess is the person who bought it 2 years ago did not know what they were buying, did not realize brittle pages meant that this book was not going to hold up for decades. The acids were eating the paper. It's just speculation on my part. Maybe they knew what they were getting. And maybe brittle pages isn't as dire of a situation as I've been led to believe it is. But my hunch is the reason they're selling it 2 years after they bought it is because they did not know how bad of a situation brittle pages was. Once they found out, they decided to recover what they could of their money and maybe put it into a different copy of Batman number 1. Or, I don't know, a boat. In any case, they lost $10,000 on it, minus the commission they're going to have to pay of $1,700. So they're only going to get about $15,000 and change off of this sale. So that's almost half what they bought it for. That's a shame. Too bad for them, but great news for someone else who now owns a copy of Batman number 1, first appearance of the Joker and Catwoman. In all that, I missed a bunch of other Batman sales. 2 is sold, 3 is sold, 6 has sold, 8 has sold, but I made it in time for the one that I was really interested in. Batman number 11 in 7.0 off-white to white pages with a CVA stamp on the cover, currently going for $18,300 with a fair market value of $15,500. What do I say, folks? What do I say? Joker covers always go above fair market. Way above fair market. Why even have the fair market where it is when the sales are always above fair market? I don't know what's going on, but this is 20% above fair market value, which is $15,500. Is anybody else going to bid it? There are just people who really like the early Joker covers, and this is the second earliest. This one was published right after Detective Comics 62, and in my opinion, it's way better than Detective Comics 62 as a cover. This is a great Joker cover, and the final hammer price is $18,800. Way above book. But it's worth it because the fair market values for this book should be higher. This is one of the best Joker covers, period. It's also one of the first, and this is a really nice looking one. I've seen copies of this book that look like garbage, but this one is really, really nice. Batman 13, sort of a World War II cover. sort of. Closed for $5,555. Number 14 closed for $7,150 in 30 seconds. We're not quite there yet. Then we got a weird World War II one where Batman is firing a machine gun while Robin feeds him the bullets. A bit of an exception to the whole Batman never shoots a gun rule. I don't know if we're really counting this. It's World War II propaganda. Okay, so this one's closing. It's a Penguin cover. First Batman Penguin cover, not the first overall, because there's Detective Comics 67 is the first Penguin cover. This one sold for $12,751. That's a high price. I don't even know what the fair market value on that one is. I'm going to look it up real quick. 8.5 white pages of the first Batman Penguin cover. The 8.0 value is $8,750, so it should be more than that. And it did sell for quite a bit more than that, $12,751. Then we got the first Batmobile cover. Batman number 20 closes in 30 seconds. This is a 9.0 off-white to white. We got split bidding. We got a 9.0 and an 8.0. That 8.0 is white pages. Big difference in the prices. The 9.0 is selling for $12,472. The 8.0 is selling for $5,317. Fair market on the 9.0, it's $6,600, and the 8.0, $7,000. The $6,600 is an old sale, 5 years old. This is going way higher. It just sold for $16,055. That's a good price. These Batmans are selling well. Number 20 in 8.0 white pages, with a fair market value of $7,000. This one's going below book. 15 seconds to go. It needs to get up to $7,000. There is not the interest in this one, despite it. Oh, because it's got the writing on it. Ron Nystrom, something like that's written on the cover. That's a shame. I think that chased people off. Oh, no, $6,766. So almost fair market value for this one, despite there being some writing on the cover. Doesn't look as good as the 9.0, but it is white pages. Here's Catwoman. Catwoman in a dress. By the 60s, she was wearing a skin-tight suit. It was more like the TV show, but in the golden age, she had to run around in a dress. So we got 42 at 8.5. Fair market is $6,500. The bidding's at $5,900 with 20 seconds left to go. Is this one going to make fair market? Do people care as much about Catwoman? We'll see. 5 seconds left to go. $6,200. Almost there. One or two more bids will get it to fair market. Yes. It sold above fair market for $6,877 with a fair market of $6,500. And split bidding, now we got a 7.0 off-white pages. What's the fair market on 7.0? $3,700, and this one's going for $3,250 with 10 seconds left to go. No one's swooping in on this one. Nope. All right, that one closed at less than half the price of the 8.5. Which makes sense. And then we got a Joker cover coming up in 50 seconds. Looks like Joker is taking over the country. It looks like Joker is running for president here, which is pretty much what happened. Batman 55 and 8.0 off white to white. Fair market is $4,800, and this is at $4,300 because what do I say? Joker covers always sell for a lot. 10 seconds to go. It's got $500 to reach fair market value, which it should because this is a CVA label, but it's off white to white. $4,400. Okay. This Joker cover, which is not a good one really at all, sold for below fair market value. Joker covers always go above fair market. It does happen. That is a crazy sci-fi Batman cover that I've never seen before. Batman 59, Batman in the future. Look, Robin, the bat signal on the moon. We're wanted back on Earth. That seems like a highly inefficient way of contacting Batman. 7 seconds left to go. It's not even a CGC grade. It's a CBCS grade, so the CGC values really won't matter. For what it's worth, it sold for $4,279 because it is a cool cover. The Gorilla Boss of Gotham City. A lot of gorillas in Golden Age comics. These early CGC labels do not have a lot of information. I'm curious who this artist is because this looks like more of a 60s style of art, but it's 75, so it should be from the 1940s, maybe early 50s. They were gorilla crazy around that time, so that makes sense. All right, here we have Batman 121. First appearance of Mr. Freeze, not a top shelf Batman villain, although he sort of has become one. He showed up a little bit in the Batman TV show in the 60s, which this came before. This is from 1959. And then we saw him played by Arnold Schwarzenegger in the Batman and Robin movie, but his most notable appearance was really in the Batman animated series in the early 90s. That is where Mr. Freeze, I think, gained a lot of popularity because that was just a really awesome depiction of him. He had a great voice, and that version of him is who showed up in the Arkham games. I think Arkham City featured him pretty heavily, and he's really grown in stature as a Batman villain in the last couple decades. He looks a lot different from how he looks in his first appearance. Fair market value on this copy is $6,250. Off-white pages. Doesn't look like this sale is going to come anywhere close to that. So we're currently at about 75% of fair market value. Yeah, I don't think there's a lot happening these days with the Mr. Freeze character. Not a whole lot happening with Batman right now at all, really. 1 second left to go. Closes at $4,544. Early Silver Age first appearance of a Batman villain, selling for more than 25% below fair market value. First appearance of the original Batgirl. To be honest, I've never really understood this whole first appearance of the original Batgirl thing. This is 1961. I think what happened is in 1961, they had the first version of Batgirl, and then they had Batgirl in the TV show, who was Barbara Gordon, Commissioner Gordon's daughter. And then what's that called? They retconned that into the comic, maybe, or they just redid Batgirl in the comic to be closer to the TV version, because that was a nice twist that she was Commissioner Gordon's daughter. So this is the original version of Batgirl. I never really understood what the deal was with this book, but thinking through it, I now get it. The TV show caused them to redo the character. Her costume is off to begin with. That doesn't look like what a Batgirl should look like. 48 seconds left to go. This is 139. As first appearances go, Batgirl is one of those characters who's kind of split between her first incarnation and her first incarnation that stuck, which was on the TV show, which you can't collect because it's a TV show. And then there's the comic version of that TV show version, which is the other Batgirl key. So this is selling at 8.5 cream to off-white. We know what that means. 2,900 is the fair market value. It's going to be lower for cream to off-white, and it is quite a bit lower, 2,900. So this is like 60% of fair market value. 1855, that's a little bit better, and it closes for 1855. Oof. That is about 70% of fair market value. Not good news for Batgirl. We're moving well into the Silver Age now. The first Silver Age Riddler, that's from 1965, which predates the TV show. Riddler was introduced in the Golden Age, but I think they took a long break with him. And then this version, he's got a costume very similar to the one that Frank Gorshin wore on the TV show. It's interesting that this is before the TV show because he really looks just like he did on the TV show. I don't think there's a lot of interest in the Riddler character these days. He was in the last Batman movie as the main villain, but he was a very different interpretation of the character. This is an 8.5 off-white to white. Fair market is 3,900. This is going for 2,200. This is another one. Silver Age Batmans are not doing great. The Golden Age ones were selling for a lot. These Silver Age ones, even the key ones, are not. I don't think anybody's going to swoop in on this. I don't know why they would. We got $3,900. So this is going for, once again, about 40% below fair market. These Silver Age Batmans are not holding up, but we'll see with Poison Ivy. This next one, wait till Riddler closes. Yeah, no surprises on the Riddler key, but people really love this first appearance of Poison Ivy. I don't really understand why people love it so much. It's not bad. I don't have a problem with Poison Ivy. I don't have a problem with the cover, but I've seen people really, really covet this book. The split bidding here. They got a 9.4 white pages and a 9.0 off white to white. The 9.4 should go for a lot. And yes, I can see that it is. The fair market on it is 17,000, and this is going for 10,562. Nowhere near fair market, but still a lot of money. 12,251 is what it closed at. Even with the white pages, this is 25%, I would say, below fair market on this first appearance of Poison Ivy. This one's going to close. The split bidding, the lower copy at 9.0, 3712, went up to 4,300 at the last second. The fair market on that was 6,750. So this is also well below book value. Then we've got 227, which I'm going to scramble on because I love this book and I really want it, but I am not going to bid on a 9.4 copy of it. I don't want it that bad. 4,100 is what the bidding is at. I bet this one's going to go up because it always does. This is a 9.4. Fair market is $3,700. It's already above fair market. People love this cover. It's an homage to Detective 31, but I think that Neil Adams actually did it better. 6,250. Wow. Huge jump at the last second. 3,700 is the fair market value. This one went for almost twice that. I would say 60% roughly above fair market. The fair markets on this book, I don't know why they don't change them. I always see this sell for above fair market, and this is way above for Batman 227. Then we've got this one, first Ra's al Ghul. I've never known how to pronounce Ra's al Ghul. Closing at 9.8 in 2 seconds. 7,169, even more, but this is a 9.8. 227 is a 9.4. So that is a good price. I don't have time to check fair market on that because we got 251 coming up in a minute and a half. I will check. 232 and 9.8, fair market's 8,500. So this sold for well below book. This sold for about 15% below fair market value. Not a surprise, but 227 sold for way above, and it happened at the last second, and I called it. I knew it was. Here we got a minute left to go before 251. This is a book that I just bought in an auction recently. This is one of the two great Bronze Age Batman covers. One of the best Batman covers overall. This is the beginning of the murderous psychopath Joker, a callback to his original incarnation of the 40s before he had to stop murdering people all the time. Here he started murdering again, and the Joker that we know from the recent movie adaptations is a lot more like this one. I did a whole video about this recently, but it's just a beautiful cover. This is Neil Adams at his best. He never drew a bad cover, but this is one of his best. 9.6 off-white to white. Fair market on this is 5,500. So this is way below fair market. That's a surprise. I bet we're going to see a spike here. I bet we're going to have some people swooping in. 14 seconds left to go. When I click this update button, unless I'm very mistaken, there's going to be a jump in price. 6 seconds, 4,500. That's not what I thought was going to happen. 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second, and 251 in 9.6 just sold for almost 20% below fair market value. That's a surprise, especially considering what just happened with 227. I consider these books, I think they have the same audience of bidders. I expected the same thing that happened with 227 to happen with 251, and it didn't. Maybe whoever drove up 227 just spent too much on it and did not decide they were going to put in a big bid on 251. I have no idea. That's a surprise. Okay. You know what? I know why. This 9.6 went below because I couldn't see. I was down at the bottom of the page. I couldn't see that the next book auctioning was Batman 251 at 9.4 with white pages. The 9.6 had off-white to white. The 9.4 had white pages. People love them some white pages. And the 9.4 fair market is $3,000, but it sold for $3,249. So this issue of 251 did go for above fair market because it's in white pages. This off-white to white went for almost 20% below fair market. It's just me, or are people caring more about page quality than they used to? I didn't pay any attention to page quality when I bought most of these books up here. I didn't even look at it. I didn't notice it. I've only become aware of it being a thing in the last couple of years as I've gotten back into collecting. It seems to be the explanation for a lot of the high sales I see are because of white pages. A lot of the low sales I see are because of off-white or low page quality. I wish the price guides factored page quality in more with their prices. Of course, that would make everything a lot more complicated, but it has such a huge impact on what people pay, and it's not listed when you go on Go Collect. You can't tell what the high and low page quality copies are going for. I wish they could integrate that in somehow. Then we got, this is the first Harley Quinn. Like what I was talking about with Batgirl in the 60s being retconned into the comics from her show version. They did the same thing with Harley Quinn here. She actually debuted in the animated series, and then they brought her into the comics here in 1993. So this is her first comic appearance. 9.8 white pages, very high population book, but this went for $1,701. And I'm not even going to bother looking it up. Then we got Black Cat Mystery, which is going in less than a minute. This is a book I talked a lot about in my video last week, my preview videos for these auctions. This is a 5.0 Black Cat. I really don't think grade matters much on this book. People just want a copy of it, and they'll pay a lot. The fair market value on this is $15,000. There's very few sales on it, so I don't have anything written down. 30 seconds to go. It's already above fair market value. 16,780, May 1954. So this is the very same month that the Senate committee hearings on juvenile delinquency were happening and the Comics Code was being enforced. This is one of the last books. They were really going for broke here. The books did get gorier and gorier before the hammer fell on pre-code horror comics. Fair market of 15,000, only 7 copies. There are 123 total copies graded on this book, and it sold for 17,850, almost 20% above fair market value. So demand is high for pre-code horror books. The gorier, the better. This is a nasty one. He's holding a radium tablet. It looks like he was about to bite into it maybe, and it made his face and hands melt off. Holy moly. As I said in my preview video, looking at these covers, particularly the covers where women are being murdered, has made me kind of reevaluate my feelings toward the Comics Code and realize that something was needed. They needed to rein these guys in because these comics were being sold to kids. And I'm not usually the guy who's going to say this. I love showing horror movies to my kids. I love freaking them out. But really, this shouldn't have been sold on newsstands. A lot of these books really shouldn't have. This one I don't mind as much as Crime Suspense Stories 22 and the ones where women are being beheaded and drowned and having their faces burned off. It looks like he got himself into trouble and no one did anything to him, so it doesn't bother me as much. Super gory, though. You don't want kids seeing this. You really don't. This is going to give kids nightmares. This is going to give me nightmares. A lot of people love that. It's just interesting to know that there was a time, we think of the 50s as being so uptight and repressed, but that really didn't start until around 1954. That version of the 50s that we know from Back to the Future took place in 1955. There was a huge backlash, a huge swing in our culture that happened at that time, which is interesting to think about because here we are in 2025 with a huge swing happening in our culture when it comes to the conversation about progressive beliefs. The culture is shifting radically. I still can't get my bearings on it right now and kind of miss that it was happening. This is another time in fairly recent history, within living memory for a lot of people, when the culture swung hard from, I wouldn't say realistic, but addressing the darkness inside of us to suddenly totally repressing the darkness inside of us. The late 1950s were just very bubblegum pop, heavily censored, heavily watered down, very tame. Straight white culture just took over, and so we're not going to have any more of this freaky stuff going on. Everything's going to be really uptight and straight-laced. These books are a document of a time before that, between World War II and the mid-1950s, when things were a lot different. Okay, this Blue Beetle 27 closed. I was interested in this book because there were only 11 copies in existence. It was the smallest census population I've ever seen for a comic book. 13 copies in existence, 11 unrestored copies, and this is the highest graded 9.6. It is in no way a remarkable book. It's a World War II cover. It's Blue Beetle. I don't know anything about Blue Beetle. Fox Features Syndicate. I don't know anything about the publisher. I was just interested because this is an extremely rare book. There's no fair market value, no idea what it should go for. Other sales in lower grades were for a few $100s. This one was at $1,700, and I'm going to click right now to see. It sold for $2,169. $2,169 for a World War II era comic that is almost the only copy in existence. Good luck finding another copy of this book. Many people would not care at all about that, and perhaps I should be one of them. It's weird to get so fixated on scarcity. Someone out there paid over $2,000 to have this book that no one else has, no other collector has. Then we got a bunch of Blue Beetles. This is the first appearance of The Question, who is the basis for the Rorschach character from Watchmen and is a Steve Ditko creation. After Steve Ditko left Spider-Man, he went to Charlton Comics and he rebooted the Blue Beetle for the Silver Age. This is a 9.8 white pages copy of Blue Beetle #1. Fair market value of $6,250. This one sold for $4,100. Not a lot of interest. We got Brave and the Bold 28, first appearance of the Justice League at 7.5 off-white pages. Bidding is at $12,251. Fair market's at $14,500. Justice League has come and gone. The Zack Snyder movies happened. He finally got to do his director's cut. That's over and done with. James Gunn seems to be bringing the Justice League back with his new version of the DCU. I'm not sure. I haven't even seen the Superman movie yet. I don't know what he's going to do with it. It may be his next movie. Let's see what happened. 16,005. Yes, I suspect it is in the future for the DCU. I think he is bringing Justice League back because this book just sold for above fair market value. 16,005 with a fair market of 14,500. So there's life in the Justice League yet. Now we get to the big auction. The single biggest sale price, almost definitely, I'm going to say for sure, of this entire auction, this entire 3-day auction, over 1,000 books. Nothing else is going to come anywhere close to the sale price of this book coming up right now in 2 minutes. Captain America Comics #1. First appearance of Captain America, Jack Kirby cover. Punching Hitler in the face. This is more than a comic book key. This is a huge piece of American history. I would say the third most prized, most valued comic book in existence after Action Comics #1 and Detective Comics 27. Arguably Amazing Fantasy 15 higher, but that's a different sort of thing because that's Silver Age. Captain America Comics #1, short of a first Superman or a first Batman, the first Captain America is huge. And this is a 7.0 sales. Someday soon, this will be selling in the millions, I would imagine. Right now, the fair market value is $300,000. There's 13 copies of this book. There are only 17 copies in better condition, 202 overall. When I looked at this about a week ago, the bidding was at $130,000. It is now at $230,000, $230,069 to be exact. Someone's being cute there. With a minute and a half left to go, it has not moved. I would not be surprised if this does not move again. So if you want to bid this book up, you got to be willing to spend another $10,000. With a minute left to go, people are not going to make that decision lightly, I wouldn't think. It's still way below fair market, $300,000. So the last sale on this was for $300,150 on Comic Connect 2 years ago. And there was a heritage sale 3 years ago for $312,000. The most anyone's ever paid for it is $312,000. So these prices are pandemic bubble prices, and we're not in the bubble anymore. This needed to go down. And I would say if the peak of the bubble price was $312,000, then what it's at right now at $230,000 is about what it should sell for. 18 seconds left to go. Let's see if someone's going to show me that I'm wrong by bidding it up to $240,000. Nope. 8 seconds left to go. I don't think there's going to be a fight over this book. I think somebody is going to take it away for $230,000. $250,000. It was $230,069, and it just sold for $420. I think Elon Musk bid on this book. I think Elon Musk bid $230,069. Somebody else bid $240,000, and then he came in with $420,000 because no one else is that lame to put that number in. Okay, well, good for you, Mr. 420. You just got Captain America #1 for $250,420, $50,000 below fair market value, although I now realize the fair market value on this was high. Now we got issue 2 selling. Boom, just sold in conserved 7.5. I've got my restored 6.0 right here, which has got a lot of glare, so you can't see it. Somebody had their restored moved up to a conserved because it didn't have color touch, which my book does have. The fair market, if it were unrestored, would be $43,000. But because this conserved grade is fairly new, we're seeing what people think about conserved relative to unrestored, relative to restored. Where does conserved fall in there? I would think it should be close to fair market. I would think that the conserved label should basically be the blue label. That's what CGC, I think, wants people to think because they made it a blue label with a little silver strip on it. But people don't seem to think that because the bidding on this was $9,150 until the closing of this auction. And I'm going to click this button and see if it went up from there. $14,138. Still nowhere near the unrestored value of this book. So unrestored, $43,000. Restored, 7.5. We don't have any sales, but we have a 9,000 for a restored 7.0. So people are punishing this book for being restored, and they don't care if it's conserved. We got one. This is the only conserved copy of the book. One conserved copy. And it is this one at 7.5, which now just sold. And it sold for basically what its restored value should be. So what the owner of this book did, which is what I would have loved to do with my book, and I contacted CGC to see if I could get mine switched to a conserved grade, but no, because of the color touch, and I think maybe something else that was done to the book by the restorer, it cannot be moved to a conserved grade. But I'm now seeing that it doesn't really matter for buyers. I think it should, but it doesn't. They're paying restored prices, and these restored prices are way lower than they should be because it's a golden age book. If it's a restored silver age book, yes, you can take it down to a third or a fourth of the blue label value. But these golden age comics, most of them are restored, and they shouldn't be even half, I don't think, of the unrestored value. Times were different then. So of 121 graded copies, only 72 are unrestored, 36 are restored, and this one's somewhere in the middle, 14,138. That is a shame. Man, too bad. It's a beautiful, beautiful copy. It's cream to off-white pages. This is cream to, mine's off-white. This one's cream to off-white. That could be part of it. This sale shocks me more than any other for being as low as it is. With a fair market of 43,000, I thought the conserved copy should have sold for a hell of a lot more than 14,000. Now we're going to go to Captain America number 3. This book is the first Red Skull on the cover. It's the first published work by Stan Lee. He was a 17-year-old. He hung around the office. Jack Kirby describes basically just being annoyed by Stan Lee. He was the kid who hung around the office and wanted to be involved. He finally got a one-page typed story published in this book, basically to fill pages. It wasn't drawn. It wasn't a comic story. So this is the first published Stan Lee work, first Red Skull on the cover. It's issue 3 of Captain America. It is considered by many to be more of a key than issue 2. This is an unrestored copy. No, sorry. It's restored. I don't know how to read CBCS labels. This is restored. I'm just realizing that. I thought it was just a CBCS 8.5, but it's a CBCS restored 8.5 with cream to off-white pages. That's going to bring the value way down. If this were unrestored, it would have a fair market of 120,000. If it were restored, it would probably be a fifth of that, which is 24,000. But it's a restored CBCS. So that's going to knock the value even lower. Let's see what it sold for. 32,000. Okay. Closer to what it should be. We got a lot of pedigree copies of Captain America in this. This one's a crazy cover. Looks like a brain swap is going on. I don't know what's happening here. This one already closed for 8,950. We got a 9.2 cream to off-white blue label, and then we got an 8.0 conserved. So this will be a good indication of what the difference in values is. This one's at 14,694. This one's at 3,400. Obviously a big difference in grade, but there's also the blue label versus conserved thing, which I'm just discovering impacts books really about as much as restoration does, which is a pity. I look at these conserved books and I don't even notice the conserved often. I will miss that it's conserved because it's got a blue label. And I think that's obviously deliberate on CGC's part. They're trying to create a new grade type that doesn't have the stain on it that the purple labels have. I'm sure that collectors, the dealers were begging and pleading with them for years to do something about creating a distinction between restoration that just makes a book look artificially good and restoration that preserves it so it doesn't fall to pieces. And they did. And I do think that that should be closer to blue label. 8 seconds left to go. Oh, there's a bidding war on this one. Wow, that spiked to 21,000. And let's see what it closes for. 21,000 for Captain America number 10. Blue label 9.2. There's only one copy at 9.2. And it just sold. So we don't know what the fair market is. There's never been a recorded sale of this 9.2. There's a recorded sale of the 9.4 for 27,000. And this one sold for 21,000, which is really right where it should be. The 9.0s never sold. The 8.5 sold for 97.50. 8.0 fair market is 8,250. But this is not an 8.0. This is an 8.0 conserved that's closing in 20 seconds. So it follows the restored version of this book at 8.0 would be about a third of the fair market value. This one is between a half and a third. Ooh, got bid up to 4,111. That's nice to see. So fair market is 8,250 in blue label, and it sold for 5,555. That's closer to where it should be. This sold for a healthy amount with off-white pages versus creamed off-white. Captain America Comics number 10, not a key. People are into that book. Oh, I see why. It's the last Joe Simon and Jack Kirby issue. Okay, so really, the first 10 issues of Captain America Comics are important. I never knew this because Joe Simon, but more importantly, Jack Kirby left after issue 10. All the other ones, the covers look way worse. And now I understand why. The next one we've got coming up is Captain America 46. And this is long after, as I now realize, Jack Kirby left the book. But this cover is pretty notorious for its depiction of the Holocaust on the cover. I don't know if or believe that there was as direct of a reference to the horrors of what happened in the Nazi concentration camps prior to this. And I don't know actually the history of how much Americans knew about what was happening in the Holocaust until the liberation of the camps, which would have been middle of 1945. The cover date on this is April 1945, and that means it was drawn much, much earlier, possibly even late 1944. I'm guessing Americans were just learning about the atrocities committed by the Nazis during World War II. They'd been happening for years, but I just don't know how much we knew about it prior to this. It's quite something for them to have shown it in a comic book that's aimed at kids. We see what looks like a boiler and a prisoner of some kind who's presumably about to be loaded into it before Captain America and Bucky come to the rescue. And there is a line of people who are about to go in after this guy. So this is absolutely horrific. I've looked at a lot of covers from the pre-code horror books, and they are graphic, but usually kind of tongue-in-cheek, usually in a fanciful way, just deliberately trying to go over the top. This is something very different. I'm not even sure how to feel about this book. It's difficult to take the same approach to it that I've been taking with all the other ones. I don't want to be cavalier about this and get into the numbers on it. It's quite something that this book, which represents the Holocaust, depicts the Holocaust on the cover with Captain America Come to the Rescue, is auctioning in 40 seconds for $38,250. Yeah, I've talked a lot about these Nazi covers in my preview videos, and my concern and my ambivalence about what people are paying for these World War II, particularly Nazi covers. And this is a big one. The fair market value for this book is $56,000 with 5 previous sales. 4 sales of $4,000 and $5,000 each in the 2000s, and then suddenly in 2023 it sold for $55,000. So that established the fair market much, much higher than it had been. It seems like this has become a key or a sought-after book fairly recently. This auction just closed, and it just jumped up $9,000 to $47,555. Still quite a bit less than the previous sale 2 years ago on Heritage, but very high nonetheless. So in the run of Captain America books, you've got 1, 2, and 3, and then all the way up to 10 was Jack Kirby, so those all go for a lot. And then you've got a long stretch that don't, and I do believe that this has become sort of a key in the run right at the end of World War II. Yeah, looking at these other sales, none of these other books, even the Pedigree, even the 9.2, 9.6 book. Oh, no, this 9.6 did go for higher. This 9.6 Pedigree cover sold for $52,000. But it was in 9.6 to get that. This issue 46 is an 8.0 and sold for $47,555. This is becoming a very sought after Captain America book. That's all I'm going to say about that. After this, the next issue is June of 1945. World War II was ending. We've still got Nazis on the cover in 47. Issue 48 was a sign of the change because he is in the subway in New York beating up, well, I was going to say gangsters of some kind, but this seems to be some sort of graft or union related villain that they put in the book. He'd moved on to other villains, and it looks like some sort of corrupt political gang trying to manipulate the subway system that Captain America is fighting. You can see the change that happened with Captain America in 1945 when he no longer had Nazis to fight and they had to find new villains. It did quickly become the Soviets, communists, were eventually the replacement. Issue 49, he's fighting U.S. Air Force gasoline reserves. This appears to be saboteurs. They had a problem, particularly with Captain America. Less so with Superman and Batman. They were able to come up with villains for them to fight. But Captain America was invented to fight Nazis, and when the Nazis went away, so did Captain America eventually. He kind of hobbled along for years, and they transitioned these books to horror books. Here he is fighting a gorilla. We're getting further into the 40s and toward the 50s. They were, for some reason, obsessed with gorillas. Here he is punching a gorilla in the face with his shield. It's a long way from Hitler. Here he is saving some sort of general from a bunch of guys with no shirts on.
Captain America, how sure are you that this general wants to be rescued?
These are the later issues of Captain America. They're interesting really just because it's just kind of sad watching Captain America look for somebody to fight. The art was worse. And then as we get into the 50s, they started doing more of the horror thing soon after this. He's battling the human fly. Okay, so they tried to come up with some villains for him to fight. It just wasn't the same. So they brought back Red Skull. The Red Skull Strikes Back in 1947. No more swastikas to be found on the covers. The old standby, he's tying some lady down to a table, presumably to cut her in half or lower her into a fire or something like that. I can't really tell what he's doing to her. Things were getting pretty dire at this point. Captain America was fighting the Parrot. That is a freaky looking bad guy. 15 seconds left to go. It's at $18.55. This one sold for $23.67. Next one up is issue 66. The Golden Girl. Captain America fights the Golden Girl. Oh, look at that. What will Captain America do? What would you do? Don't miss the startling case of the Golden Girl. Bucky just got shot. Wow. Golden Girl shot Bucky.
Do you think this is Dorothy or Blanche?
All right. This is closing in 15 seconds. Bidding's at $2,755. Now up to $2,955. $3,255 is the closing. They finally put Captain America out of his misery a little bit later. I went on into about 1950, I think, but sales had dropped. So I want to talk about Captain America Comics issue 69, The Weird Tales of the Wee Males. I just did a video about this one. It's a very odd cover. These are all, looking at them now, this issue is not alone in being bizarre, but it is the most bizarre. These tiny little Lilliputians seem to have Captain America pinned down, but there's a giant hand coming out of a cave with the intent of grabbing his crotch. I don't know what else we're supposed to take away from this. Captain America, poor guy, has some sort of front butt going on here. I thought about bidding on this if it wasn't going for too high. They don't sell very often. They don't come up very often. But my interest in bidding evaporated as the price went up. $2,200 is just not worth it to have Captain America versus the Wee Males. 7.0. This is last sold 23 years ago in 2002. There's one recorded sale in 2002 for $1,093. How do we even know what this is worth? The 5.0 has a few sales and the fair market is $1,900. So the 7.0 should be $3,000 or $4,000, but it's not. It's at $2,200. Oh, nope, it is. There we go. $3,015. It's more like where this should be. Again, there's only 50 graded copies of this book. Probably not a lot more lying around ungraded at this point. Books from that long ago have pretty much turned up. There's 47 universal and 3 restored. I don't know why you'd get this book restored. $3,015. Is there going to be a counter bid? I had a little bidding war that happened very quickly as it jumped from $2,200 to $3,000, and it's closing in 4, 3, 2, 1. There was one more bid, $3,115. Okay, so now we know what this book is worth, and it's a cute cover. What the heck is happening here? Murder in the Mind. This guy has long, luscious blonde locks, and he's being pinned down, and some tiny little women are pulling his hair. Captain America just standing there watching, doesn't know what to do. Who's that lady he's with? Oh, there she is. Seems to have been a she Captain America. Golden Girl. She's Golden Girl. They team up. Okay, so this Golden Girl here, they changed her look a little bit, but we see her tied up in this issue. Captain Tootsie. And then we see her again here. So she was she became a recurring character in these later issues. And maybe that's her with very hairy man hands reaching out of the cave. Who knows? Yeah, Golden Girl showed up a lot. Never heard of her before. This one, very odd cover, going for $2,533. Now it's up to $3,236. All right, we got the last book in tonight's auction, closing in 10 seconds. This cover with the guy having his hair pulled by tiny little ladies while Captain America watches. And it closed at $4,600. Wow! For a 7.0 copy of Captain America 72. Fair market on this was $4,100, and it sold for $4,600, above fair market. That's it. That's the end of day one. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. There were some big surprises here. Disappointing low sales on Captain America Comics #2, which I, of course, have a vested interest in. Yeah, I was hoping to see that go closer to the 40s, and it ended up selling for 14,000 and something. So I'll be back tomorrow with the next batch of books, which are from C to M in the alphabet. We'll have a bunch of pre-code crime books as we go from Captain America into crime, and then all the way through a whole bunch of Fantastic Fours, some Incredible Hulks, and then we end at M with the Marvel comics from the Golden Age. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.